Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Big East Rewind. I am your host, Chuck Everson from Villanova, and my good partner, Sonny Spera, is right now at this moment administering sweet air to a patient to have a pain-free dental experience at Progressive Dental. He's working today, but never fear for our guest today that we have, and we've got a co-host. I always bring in a guest co-host when Sonny's unavailable, and today we've got a great one. I didn't even know this guy when we started this show 5 years ago, and now we're going to football games and hanging out, and we talk all the time. He is the 1990 most valuable player for the Big East tournament, and he's the all-time leading scorer at the University of Connecticut. University of Connecticut Hall of Famer, Chris Smith. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for that was wonderful what you just said. That was nice. Well, I need you everywhere I go, man. That was
I know
awesome.
it seems like it, right? It's pretty funny how that worked. We were just talking about it, and all of a sudden, here you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Before we get into this basketball stuff, Chris, I got to
yeah,
talk to you about something.
yeah.
What's going on with our beloved Eagles? That's what I want to know from you. What are you thinking? Off season,
Man,
you know,
well, number one, I don't know what's going to happen with AJ Brown. I
just
don't
going
know
to
if
ask
we're
you.
going to
Yeah.
keep him. But we really just our defense played well this year. Our offense kind of fell apart, and I don't
Yeah.
know what happened there. But I think next year, Chuck, I think we'll be pretty good. I think we'll
We
be
got
okay.
enough weapons still, with or without AJ. I know Howie's going to make sure that they're ready to roll, Howie Roseman. So,
There we go. We got
we'll be ready to
Saquon
go.
Barkley, man. I love Saquon Barkley. Thank you, New York Giants, for letting us have Saquon Barkley.
That's that's right. I'm sure those guys in charge of that organization are still, having nightmares about that,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
So, and listen, and we went to a few games, right, Chris? I mean,
oh yeah, oh yeah,
it was cold as hell that time. We was last year. I couldn't make it. I had some health things go on last year, but the year
yeah,
before 24, we went with Reggie Williams, right?
yeah,
We were
oh
just
yeah.
telling
Had a
our
good time.
guests today that Reggie was working the grill,
And
and
he does a great job. He does a great job.
oh, he's
He's a
awesome.
great
He used
coach.
to he used to have his own restaurant. He was the cook. His
Yeah,
wife
yeah,
was the face that ran the place, Kathy.
yeah. She's
His
awesome.
beautiful wife, Kathy, and
Yeah.
he was in the back doing all the cooking.
Doing all the cooking. Came
Yeah.
out perfect. We
You
didn't
know
win
what?
that game, but we won the championship that
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
So
that's
we didn't
right.
win
That's
that game,
exactly right.
but we
And
had
you
a
know
good
what?
time.
I'll tell you something funny. Prior to that, my buddy that's got those tickets, I had Michael Graham come with us too. So
Nice.
Mike was there, and Mike and Reggie and I were betting that Mike wasn't going to show. And lo and behold, he surprised everybody, and he was the first one there. Of course, when there's free
Wow.
food, he's the first one
Yeah,
online.
he's the first one.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So today we've got a great guest, somebody you know very very well, one of the all-time greats from UConn. So without any further ado, Chris, I'm going to introduce our guest and we'll get this show started, okay?
All right.
So our guest today is the first ever UConn All-American. He's a UConn Hall of Famer, the Big East Player of the Year, two-time first-team All Big East, fourth overall pick in the '94 NBA draft by the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he had a 15-year pro. And this year, Chris, the Big East is celebrating him as a Big East legend. And we're going to talk about that too, because they do that the last couple of years. They brought guys back from each team, which I think is really, really cool. And they come
Yeah.
back and they get acknowledged at halftime or in between games and stuff. So can't wait to talk to this guy about it. The great Donyell Marshall from Reading, Pennsylvania is with us. How are you, Donyell?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
We're good. We're good. Thanks for coming out and hanging with us. We appreciate you doing that. I know everybody's busy this time of year. It's March Madness time, and everybody's getting ready for the tournament and everything else. So we appreciate you coming out.
Oh
Thanks.
yeah.
I appreciate you having me. It's been a couple of years that we've been trying to get this done, and finally good to finally be on.
Yeah, well, Daryl's tenacious when it comes to chasing people down, and he got Chris the same way. He sends you all these clips that you haven't seen in 40 years, right? And then
Yeah.
you go, holy shit, that was pretty cool, And
Yeah.
next thing you
Yeah.
know, you're sitting here with Sonny and I usually. So there you go. That's how that works.
Yes, sir.
Um, So you growing up in Reading, you know what was fascinating to me, before we get into the UConn stuff and what's going on, you went in 2 years, you went from 6 foot to 6'8", right? You had a growth spurt over ninth, 10th, and 11th grade, and you grew 8 inches. Tell Chris what that's like, because he'll never know that feeling of growing 8 inches over 2 years.
Well, actually, it was 9 inches, to be honest with you.
Wow. Okay.
So it was after ninth grade, and and it started in the summertime, and you wear shorts all summer, so you don't really know what's going on.
Right.
And my high school coach that I had, Mr. Miller, he had just got the job that year. So, I'm playing summer league and stuff like that. And, obviously I feel like my arms and stuff are getting longer. I'm jumping more, but I had no clue that necessarily got taller, like, just still being around the regular people. My uncles are tall and stuff like that. And what happened was, I'm sure Smitty could attest to this, is when you're in high school and your mom tells you to go try your clothes on so she knows what to buy you for school the next year. What is still good from the year before, whether you need new, so when we
Yeah.
go school shopping, I know what to get you. So, I'm trying on my shirts, everything's fine. I go to try on my jeans and Mom, we have a problem.
I
She's
guess
like,
we
what?
do.
My jeans were in the middle of my shins at that point in time. So I was like, we need all new pants. And she was like,
Oh,
what? And
no.
like, because my mom was pretty tall for a woman also. So it wasn't like, at that point in time, it wasn't like, really anything different. It wasn't until like I went to try my school clothes on that we really felt like there was a difference. So
Right.
after going into 10th grade, I think I was about 6'4", 6'5". And then going into 11th grade, I grew up to about 6'9".
Wow.
Nice. And,
Now,
and, and that,
good, Chris.
yeah, I'm sorry, Chuck. I
No,
just
no,
wanted
go
to ask
ahead.
you, Donyell, because when you came to UConn, you had guard skills. So is that something that you worked on in high school because you were, smaller at the time? Because you could shoot the 3-pointer, you could come off the pick and roll. I mean, you just had guard skills. What did you work on?
So that was very it. I mean, because I was shorter, pretty much
Yeah.
my whole life, I was pretty much playing the perimeter the whole time. So then when I grew, I always had the perimeter skills, and then my high school coach was very good at development. So and then I had friends. Out of like my best friends, I'm probably the youngest by 5 or 6 years at least. A lot of them are 8, 9 years older. So there was some guys that were centers that were older than me that had graduated college. So they started working on the inside game with me to help develop that. But like you said, I had the guard skills. So like even in high school, like, I would bring the ball up. I know even though freshman year there was times where, obviously you brought the ball up, but I mean, I was allowed to grab the rebound and bring the ball up.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
So it was always because I was shorter, and then when I grew, I just had the skills of that from being short, up until 10th grade.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between his game and mine, Chris, because I never had that short spurt. I was always the biggest in the class and everything like that. And I had growth spurts, but never 9 inches like that. That's crazy.
Well,
Like
it's
you
funny
said,
because so I had a camp for 15 years, and my thing, what I always told the counselors, it was an overnight camp. The kids loved it. Then I always told the counselors it was 1 week of girls, 1 week of boys. They were not allowed to play players by their height. There was no
Mm,
position in camp because the problem is you get kids that are tall early, and you teach them on the inside, and then they
yeah.
don't grow, right? So now they don't know how to handle the ball. They don't,
Yeah.
all they know how to do is rebound, and you're only 6'4", right?
Great point.
So like I made sure at my camp we had positionless, yeah, yes, you knew people who could dribble better than others, or you knew whatever, but there was no you go to the post just because you're big. No, he needs to work on the perimeter. I had guards work on post skills and stuff. And I think that's what people don't understand. People today put them in positions right away, and you don't know
Right.
if they're ever going to grow, and you don't know if they're not going to grow. So
right.
I think people got to work on all types of skills.
You were ahead of your time with that for sure, because that's kind of what happened to me. I was the biggest guy in
Yeah.
the court all the time, so get down to the block. Um, yeah, and now it's a completely different game. And you know, when Jay Wright had his first or second year at Villanova, that Curtis Sumner went down, and they wound up playing five guards. So they had to have five basketball players. It didn't matter what. There was really no positions back then.
Mhm.
So that was the start of it, though. You had to have guys be well-rounded to be able to do a little of everything to be successful on the court. So, kudos to you. You were ahead of the game. So that was pretty good. So
Hey,
let's stick. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, Chuck, that's a funny point. So I was the tallest guy on my team
So you
at
were
six
you
two,
were doing Mike and drills, Chris,
and
and
I
drop
played.
stepping and everything.
I played the center spot at
Oh
six
my
two,
God.
Donyell, at my size at Kobe Cathedral. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Wow. Yeah. Well, there you go. And look you wound up somebody taught you some guard skills because
Oh
you
yeah,
did pretty good. It worked out pretty good, I have
it
to say.
worked out pretty good.
Yeah, you
It
can't
worked out.
complain about that, Chris. Come on now. Can't complain. So before we get into all the stuff that we talk about, do you follow the team now, Danielle, at all? Do you
Do I
you
follow
keep
UConn now?
yeah, do you keep up with them?
Yeah, when they don't piss me off, but yeah.
Well, listen, we we all have that moment with our prospective universities, pal. I mean, listen, we've been angry for the last 3 years. This year, not so much. It's been pretty good. We got
Yeah.
24, 25 wins. That's pretty good. So talk about UConn. Where do you see them falling? It's March Madness time. We're a couple of days away from the Big East tournament as we do this. The Big East tournament today is Monday, and the Big East tournament starts on Wednesday. And speaking of the Big East tournament, we're going to be at Macy's Herald Square again this year, guys, with Starter and Carl Banks doing live podcasts there and start. We want to thank the good people at Starter for sponsoring that for us. We'll have a whole studio with us. We won't be doing this on Zoom like we typically do. And it worked out really, really great. Last year we had a whole bunch of guys, and this year's list is a who's who of Big East ballers. So everybody get over to Macy's. But in the meantime, in the tournament is starting. Where do you see everything falling out for them? And big picture, the March Madness, the real tournament, the Big East. I think everybody kind of feels it's going to be them and St. John's on Saturday, right?
I mean, I think it's going to depend on which team shows up, right? You look at the team that plays St. John's the second time, you're like, oh, we had a wake up call and we're ready to go. But then you look at the three games after that, we had close games and then we lose to Marquette.
Yeah.
So it's which team is going to show up. And I think that's the way it's been all year with them. And then not only which team is like, Alex, Caravan, like I think he's been up and down. Can he go on a good streak of a couple good games where he's playing at the level that he's capable of playing? Because
Yeah.
if he's playing well, it opens it up for everybody else, right? And again, I love Terrace Reed. Terrace Reed, I think, is the heart and soul of the team. When he's getting a double double, playing the way he played against St. John's the second time, it
Yeah.
does make things easier. But I also think, when you have Caravan making shots, it helps things for Mullins. Silas is playing the defense that he plays. I think really and truly lately is like we just haven't had everybody clicking at once right now. You
Yeah,
have two or three, but you haven't had everybody. Solo ball's been up and down lately. You know,
Yeah.
I think
He
if
can
we
really
can
stroke it too. When he gets it going, man, holy smokes. I
exactly,
love his
exactly.
form and everything.
And for me, for solo ball, for some reason, I think, I think if he can get to the NBA, G League, NBA, I think he's actually going to be a better pro than he is a college player because I think the way the game is opened in the NBA, that's what he needs, right? He
yeah,
needs the openness. He's a mid-range jumper. He can get there. He can get downhill left-handed. So I actually really like his game. I just is this game lost to Marquette going to be the eye opener that they needed?
yeah,
I tend to think yes, because they're going to get 4 days of Danny screaming at everybody. And I feel sorry for whoever you guys are playing next because you saw what happened to St. John's, and then you guys pissed them off, and they did exactly to us what you guys did to them. And and credit to St. John's because it showed a lot of character, coming back from a whooping like they got from UConn. And then Rick had 2 days to prep them for us, and the next thing you know, they just came out and did the exact same thing to us at the Garden. So I think both of those teams are definitely both of those teams are definitely in the dance. I think Villanova makes it. So I think we come away with three teams. If Seton Hall could get a win or two, maybe they'll sneak in. But if we go by last year at all, the way the committee went through it, I think we get three teams in. What are your thoughts, guys?
I definitely think three. Where I'm confused right now, like I'm a fan of basketball, right? I'm a fan of teams, and like this is called March Madness and it's called Cinderellas for a reason, right? And everybody keeps bringing up Auburn. So I went and looked at their record, and it's like, why are they even mentioned? I don't care if they played in the SEC or not, right? Like, like, let's be honest, right? You said we're talking at the bar, right? That's how this is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
let's be
yeah. I'm
honest
with you.
here, right? Auburn's not winning the national championship,
I
right?
agree.
They're not. So let's put a good mid-major in that is going to, bring fans, it's going to help their school out. They might be able to get an upset, right? The greatest times we've had the last couple of years when St. Peter's went on the run, right?
Yeah,
When Loyola Chicago went on the run, right? When those small schools go on the run, that's when we love. That's why we watch. That's why we call off work, right? That's why we have the 3 or 4 TVs so we can watch those
yeah,
schools upset. I
That's
don't want
right.
to see Auburn in the damn tournament, right? You're fighting like Miami, Ohio. You're saying if they lose that they don't get in. You know how hard it is to go undefeated in the regular
Yeah,
yeah,
season?
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? I don't care what conference you're in. You know how
right.
hard that thing is? And you're gonna because they got one loss. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like that's where like,
You can only
like
play who they put in front of you, Danielle.
that's
exactly.
true.
So
I
like
mean,
you're gonna tell Seton Hall they can't get in, and you're gonna say that Auburn possibly can get in at 16 and 16?
yeah, no good. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
It-
Like,
It's
so, I
interesting.
mean,
It's interesting because Rod Strickland, who's coaching at LIU, they got in. So they're the first ones to already punch their ticket. They won their conference,
conference
championship,
play.
and then yeah, they
yeah,
was
because Mercyhurst is
Mercyhurst
ineligible for the
ineligible, so
tournament.
they get in.
Yeah,
And Rod's been on the show, and he's awesome to talk to too. And I felt good for him because he took over a situation there. And you've coached at that level, Donyell, so you know. I mean, you coached in the NEC, right? You were at
yeah,
Central Connecticut for a little bit,
yeah.
so I mean, so you know what that's like and what that's about. That's a huge thing for their fan base and everything too at LIU.
Congratulations to Rod. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
great job.
Rod deserves it, and really
Yeah,
and truly at that level, it really is, it's about the school giving you the resources to win, right?
yeah,
Rod
that's true.
obviously being from New York, that helped out a lot. He's able to, recruit the New York kids and keep them home and stuff. But LIU gives the resources. Like, the good thing is there is one of the good friends that I have here. We do CrossFit together. His stepmother is actually the president at LIU. So like
Oh,
I know
really?
a lot of stuff that, goes on. Like, you know, she she she's she likes big name coaches. That's how Rod was able to help. She likes big name coach, but she's going to put the resources behind them. And he got the resources to win, and he got it done. And he's done a tremendous job there. I'm happy for him. One reason I'm happy for Rod too. We were teammates in Toronto for a half
Hmm.
a year. But I tell people this all the time, man, about Rod Strickland. He is the most disrespected point guard that I've
Yeah,
seen. Like, there's no reason he never made the All-Star game. There's no
yeah,
reason. People don't understand how good Rod Strickland was, man.
yeah.
Oh,
When I
yeah.
was in Golden State, Rod Strickland had 2 pulled hamstrings and hemorrhoids and
Wow.
gave us a triple double.
Wow.
Like, man, and that was against Tim Hardaway. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like Rod
Yeah.
Strickland was so good, and people don't give him the credit that he deserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. For sure, agreed. He's one of those guys. You just assume he's so smooth that you don't even realize what's happening until you look at the stat sheet at the end of the game. That's the kind
Yeah.
of guy he was. So, yeah, but I think it's going to be fun. I think the Big East tournament's going to be a pretty good tournament. But I think on Saturday, there's not going to be any surprises. I don't think. I think it's going to be UConn and St. John's, and maybe Ricky P will pull out his white suit again, like Ricardo Montalban from, and see what happens. But I mean, it's different now though at St. John's because when we all played, when you got tickets for your families and stuff, they were all over. They were all on the lower level and stuff. Let me tell you something. I went to the game. I went to the Villanova game last week, and all the tickets for the Villanova people were in the upper deck. Like I
Oh wow.
literally touched the ceiling of the garden. We were up so high. I'm like, what the hell is this? So when I spoke to the people at Nova that handle that, Marie, she's awesome. She's a sweetheart. She's the new basketball secretary and everything. And she said, "Hey, that's Coach Pitino. We weren't allowed to get tickets down in the lower bowl. I get it, but it was first time ever where you had to sit up that high to go see them play. So it's going to be an interesting thing. Who are some of the teams, guys, that you think overachieved, and who are some of the teams that you think underachieved in the Big East this year?
Donyell, go on. You take that, Donyell.
Um, that part I really probably don't know. I mean, I think if you're going to be surprised, you'd probably say Villanova probably overachieved,
Yeah,
with being the first year head coach. But it shows that he's a great coach, right? He's come in, he take a team that with other not necessarily all his players. He's come in, did a great job and finished third. I would also say Sheem probably finishing fourth. They nobody probably expected Seton Hall up there. I know even at the beginning of the year, I think Sheem was probably on the hot seat, right?
yeah,
So for him to finish fourth, I think he did a really good job of doing that. I think people expected Providence to be better, so I would
Yeah.
say that they're probably an underachiever.
yeah,
And I think that McDermott's a great coach. I think you always expect Creighton to be up top.
yeah. They had a
I
tough.
think they were probably underachievers, and you know, I think to me probably the biggest disappointment I thought was probably Xavier as well. I thought Junior was going to come in and do a little better, and I was one of the things I was excited about was him, coaching against his dad and stuff, and I thought he would pull one of those out, and he didn't. But I would say the underachievers are probably Creighton, Providence, and
Yeah.
Xavier. The
Yeah.
overachievers would be Villanova and Seton Hall.
Yeah, and I piggyback on that. I think Seton Hall definitely. I felt like they overachieved. I think they had a great year. If I'm not mistaken, I think they have 20 wins.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah,
Yeah, about 20 wins. So Seton Hall really did a great job. I would say Marquette uh, didn't really have a good year this year, and like Danielle said, Xavier, Providence, I thought would have a better year as well. But they kind of fell off the tracks a little bit. But
yeah.
uh, definitely Seton Hall, I feel like overachieved this year.
I got to watch him play a couple of times because, like you, Chris, you and I got to be friends from doing this and stuff. I got to be friendly with Danny Calandrillo. I've been to a few games with him, and this team has taken on Sheen's personality,
Yeah,
and they play hard, they get after it, they're
yeah,
tenacious, and they go 94 feet,
yeah,
they're a lot of fun to watch, and they're not an easy game. I mean, it's going down to the end most times when you play against those guys, and that's all on Coach Shaheen. I mean, he really did it. I think he did a great job, especially this year because last year there was a whole thing, and then they were expecting all these great things, and it didn't happen. And a lot of that is due to who they were able to pick up in the portal. So every year you have a brand new team, which seems almost unfair to these coaches, honestly. I mean, how do you develop a culture? How do you develop team chemistry when you got 12 new guys on the team every year?
yeah. That's
So
tough.
I
That's
mean,
tough.
but I think it's going to be a fun week. It always is. It's always electric in the city. I think we'll see a lot of that back when UConn and St. John's if they get after it again. I think we'll see that again because back when we were playing, there was nothing like it in New York City when you guys went into the Big East tournament. I mean, you guys know, Chris, you were MVP of the
Yeah.
1990 tournament. What was that like? When you go in there and you're walking the streets of the Garden, for
Yeah.
that week, and everybody, the place is buzzing, right?
Yeah. I mean, you gotta realize back then, St. John's, Syracuse, those were the teams to beat back in the 90s. And to, like I told you earlier before, Chuck, to beat a team that had Derek Coleman, Sherman Douglas, Billy Owens,
Yeah,
Stevie Thompson. I mean, there's no way that UConn was going to win that game. And to win that game in Madison Square Garden in front of New York fans was just unbelievable. And
yeah,
it's really one of the most electric places to play. And like I said, my whole family, we're from Connecticut. If you're from Connecticut, you love New York. Most
yeah,
of your teams are New York teams. So nobody really counted UConn in to win that game. So it's just an electric place,
yeah.
electric time, and hopefully St. John's and UConn could be the final factor, and I think the place should just be will go crazy. I think it'll just go crazy.
So Donyell, let me ask you this. Yeah, do you like playing at the Garden? Because you seem to have some good games at the Garden. I'm just saying again, we do our due diligence here, Donyell, in case you don't know. You're new to the show. Chris knows that we are
Yeah.
professional journalists, Sonny and I here, and we have a whole team of people. I watched your game. I saw your 360-degree dunk on St. John's to cap off your second 42-point performance in the same season against the same crew. So it seems to me that you like playing at the Garden. Is that true?
To be honest with you, it wasn't about playing with the Garden. I had some personal stuff against St. John's
Oh,
that
Well,
season.
don't piss Danielle off. That's the
It was
lesson.
it was actually some personal stuff against St. John's
wow.
going into that season. That it was obviously everybody, like Chris said, the atmosphere, you're in New York City playing in the Garden, was all that, but it was some personal stuff against St. John's
Well, you
that
made a statement, my man. I'll tell you that right now. That doesn't happen in the same season to the same team. You would think after the first time you got a 42 on them, you would think they might have checked you up a little bit. I don't know. I mean, just me. If I
well,
was coaching,
the
I'm
thing
not
that's crazy
faulting the
about that
coach.
is, I had the 42 in the Garden, and then we played them at home, and it was the last home game of the season, and I actually had the flu. I wasn't going to play. Like I was feeling bad. I had a temp and everything. But Coach Calhoun called me in. He was like, it's the last home game. After the season, we got to talk if you're coming back or not. You don't know if this is going to be your last game. Like you kind of owe it to the fans to play. So I don't know if you look back. I think you guys posted it a couple weeks ago, like a week or
Yeah,
two ago, that game. I actually had a T-shirt on in that game. That's the first game all season I wore a T-shirt under my shirt was to help try to keep me, warm and stuff while we were playing. But I actually had 29 that game. So if you look at that season, I had 42, 29, 42 against St. John's.
Jesus.
Um,
Wow.
you
Woo.
know,
You know what the most amazing stat to me was at the Garden. You, between the two games, you were 30 for 30 from the foul line. You went
yeah.
20 for 20 the first time and 10 for 10 the second time. I was like, holy, that's, you know,
Yeah. It's amazing.
and listen, you don't have to be a Hall of Fame coach like Louis to tell his guys, don't foul the man. He hasn't missed a foul shot since we've been playing. Come
Well,
on.
so Louis wasn't the coach then.
Yeah, I know. I
It was
know.
Mahoney. It was Mahoney who
Yeah,
was
well,
the coach, and
Brian's been on too.
that's
I
where the
would have known that. I would
personal
have told him when he was on the show with us.
that's where the personal thing happened was with it was actually with Mahoney and two of the players. The story is actually pretty funny. Is like Chris, you probably remember it. They used to travel every summer with the Big East national team in the summertime,
Sure.
Yeah.
and it was for players who probably didn't really play a lot the year before, and their coach help get them on the team so that they can get some playing time over the summer. So, I started my freshman year, and the Big East team after my freshman year, they were gone, and I guess Calhoun must have coached it before that. And I guess when he coached it, he took two St. John's players. So I guess St.
Yeah.
John's kind of owed him a favor back to take two players. So for us, we sent Rudy Johnson and then we sent me. And, again, I'm going into my sophomore year. So I'm probably at that point in time, I only averaged 11 points my freshman year, probably not the name or whatever. But when we get over there to playing, Mahoney wouldn't play me. And
Mm.
he was playing his St.
Really?
John's, yeah, he was playing his St. John's players over me.
Oh,
And
wow.
one game, he took me out for something. And I kind of like, I'm not going to lie. I went and sat at the end of the bench. I was like, don't put me back in the game. I'm done with this. I think we still had like 2 or 3 games left. I was like, I'm done with this. Don't put me back in the game. And the St. John's players tried to come down and talk to me. And I was like, both of you need to get away from me because this is going to be taken out on you during the season. And they're like, what did we do? It's not us. I said, trust me, it's going to be taken out on you two during the season.
Holy
So,
Wow.
sh-
but then, again, that's why I said it was personal because it was like what happened in the summer on that team with him not playing me. I said, it's going to be taken out on you during the season. So that's where me going at them during the
Yeah.
season came about.
Well,
So you had a little bit
that
of
gave
that
you a lot of
Kobe and
fire.
Mamba mentality in you back then.
Well, it depends, right? Smitty knows I was very quiet. I was
Yeah.
very quiet. It
Those
was,
are the guys you got to watch out for, though,
yeah.
Donyell.
And then, going into junior year, it's like, Donnie and all those guys pretty much were like, yo, we need you to like, you're the best player. We need you to lead us. Like, we need you to speak up. We
Yeah.
need you to do things. And if you really look at it, we had 8 freshmen come in, and our junior year we had no seniors, right? It was all juniors, and we all were captains and leaders by different, like Kevin Ollie was probably the vocal leader, right? He
Right.
was the guy who spoke up all the time. Donnie was the emotional leader, the rah rah guy, the guy who played hard, who did all that. And I was probably the quiet leader going out, just doing what I did on the court. But it was always funny because if I spoke up in the timeout and I was pissed, then they were all like, "Oh, we're not doing." Like he spoke up, he said something. We ain't doing what we're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? So it was like,
Yeah.
that's where it was more. And then, but by junior year, I think I got more enthusiastic, more. I think I started believing in myself a little bit more to where I knew I could speak up and the talent was taking over. So I think that's where it all came about.
Where did you guys play on that trip? I wound up playing on a team after we won in '85. So the summer of '85, we went to Yugoslavia and got to play against Petrovic and Vlade Divac and those guys. Where did you guys go?
To be honest with you, people people ask me this all the time. I don't remember. Even when I was on the USA team, the next year, I don't even remember where we played when I was on the USA team. I have no clue where we were at.
Someplace other than here is where you were.
It was
Okay.
definitely so. I do know we went to Barcelona. I do know we went to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
but
wow.
after that, I don't remember where we were at.
Did you
Well,
play on one of
I
those
was just
teams, Chris?
playing.
Yeah, it's funny that he said that. I played on the USA team as well, and I remember we played in Argentina. We lost to Petrovic, and we lost. They won the championship. We came in third place, and we had a pretty good team, but we were young. Best players: Christian Leitner, obviously, Lonzo Mourning, Kenny Anderson, Todd Day was the guys that were pretty much the guys that
Yeah.
uh, were our best players. But like Danielle said, things are moving so fast at that time. You just want to play basketball. You kind of forget where you're flying to. You kind of forget where you're going. And you just want to go play basketball. Next thing you know, you wake up on the plane, you're in another place, and you're like, okay, you just go play basketball. But I totally understand what Danielle's saying. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Right. Right. So let's go back. Why UConn, Danielle? What made you pick UConn?
Well, the funny part about that is I remember like I was a late bloomer in high school, right? I didn't I was a fill-in for the Nike All-American camp, and the reason I was fill-in because Reading is only an hour, hour and a half from Princeton. I think somebody dropped out, and they asked me to come down and play. Next thing you know, camp's over, and I'm top five in the country. I get
Wow.
home, my mom pulls out within that week. My mom pulls out like two big green trash bags full of letters from colleges all over the country. At that point in time, I was getting recruited by like St. Joe's. Maryland was probably the biggest school at that point in time. Um, the thing that's crazy is, watching Connecticut, the first time I seen Connecticut, first time I even heard of Connecticut was when Tate George hit the shot.
Yeah.
Right.
First time even saw a highlight. So for me, it was like, who is this school, who, whatever. And, I remember getting the letter in the mail the first time. And my uncle, he used to sleep on the floor in my bedroom. Every day I came home, he was like, where'd you get letters from? Who's whatever? And I said Connecticut, and I was actually going to throw it away. And he was
Wow.
like, don't throw it away. I'm like, why? He was like, he started saying all this stuff. He was like, that's a good team. He was like, Calhoun's a very good coach. Calhoun this, and then he just started saying, he was like, you could be the first of everything up there. He was like, you can
Yeah.
be this, you can be that, you can do whatever. So I kind of had him on my list and stuff. And um, it's always funny is because I only took three visits. I took Syracuse, I took Maryland, and I took UConn.
Mm.
UConn was actually my worst visit of the three. Um, I didn't have any fun on campus. But I think some of that had to do, when I was up there, I had to take my SAT. So like I really couldn't party like you're supposed to party because I had to wake up on, Saturday morning, take the SAT, and then you got to
Mhm.
leave Sunday morning, right? So
Right.
I just didn't have a great time. And then Maryland was recruiting me for a long time. And at that point in time, you have to realize is like Billy Owens is from Carlisle. We're 30 minutes away
Mm.
from
Right.
each other. So that was like my kind of idol, like he's from my state, from right down the street. Syracuse was, at that point in time, it was Syracuse, Georgetown, always on Big Monday, right?
Yeah.
So it was like I was going to Syracuse. That's where I was 100% going to Syracuse. I was
Yeah.
going to commit to them early on my visit. My mom's the one who was like, I don't want you to commit right now. And I'm like, why? Like she did not like Jim Boeheim. She
Mm.
Really?
thought he was too lenient. She wanted somebody who was a disciplinarian. And Smitty, I don't know if you remember this too, is on my visit, you guys played Marathon Oil and you lost.
Yeah. I
Really?
remember,
And
I remember that. Oh yeah.
How did
they
you do
lost.
that, Chris?
Yeah, and they had a 4 hour practice.
Yeah.
And I turned to my mom and I was like, you really think I'm coming here? Like, I'm not practicing 4 hours after a loss. Like, I'm not doing this. And you got to understand is at that point in time, I was 6'9", 175 pounds. And
Right.
I was like, my body can't do this. Like, Cerulic was over there in the corner throwing up. I
Oh
forgot
yeah.
who else was throwing up. And I was just like, I'm not coming to UConn. So the funny part about it is like, you know, Syracuse ended up getting on probation, going on probation. So they got kicked out. My mom didn't want me really going there. So then the next thing you know, I was going to go to Maryland. Maryland was already on probation, so I was like, I'm not paying for what somebody else did, right? Like, I'm not going to have my tournament because for what somebody else did.
Yeah.
UConn got lucky that the All-American game was in Springfield, Massachusetts that year. And
Mhm.
after Calhoun called me in my hotel, he was like, because I drove to the game. I had never been on a plane before, so I had drove to the game from Reading to Springfield. And he was like,
Mm.
on your way home, will you stop by campus? So I stopped by campus. Calhoun, all the whole coaching staff was in there, talked to me for about 2 hours. My buddy who drove me to the game, we get into the car afterwards. Probably about 2 hours into the ride. Like I didn't say anything. I just got back in the car. I did not say one word to him. I looked out the window the whole time. I finally was like, "Yo, I'm hungry. Can we get something to eat?" He was like, "Yeah." And I turned to him. I go, "Can I ask you a question?" And he was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Will you promise me that wherever I go to school, you'll bring my mom to 5 games a year. And
Mm,
he goes, I can make that promise. I go, so no matter where I go to school, 'cause, for me, Syracuse was a 4 hour drive from
Right.
home. Maryland was 2.5, and UConn was 5. Right. So for me, it was like, and I said, I knew what being in the Big East, I was going to get the Villanova game, the Pitt game, that she was going to be able to make it to and
Yeah.
stuff. And I was just like, you just promised me you'll bring my mom to 5 games a year wherever I go to school. And he goes, I can make that promise to you. And I turned to him and I was like, I'm going to UConn.
Wow.
And
yeah.
so that
Yeah.
was
Miss
was it.
Marshall. Yeah.
So you brought him up. So I got to ask you too, you know, your relationship with Coach Calhoun, because, if you look at the type of kids that are playing today in general, not at UConn necessarily, but in general, a lot of them don't like to be coached the way Rolly Massimino coached, Louis Carnesecca coached, Jim Calhoun coached with that, in your face. But I also know because we had him on, and he reminds me a lot of Coach Mass because of the way he kept all you guys tight and together. You guys all come back, and he was that kind of figure. Talk about him for a minute because I know he was tough because just getting him on the show, guys. I think I told you this, Chris, but Donyell, I'll share it with you. I call him up, right, and I said, "Hey, Coach," I explained everything. He had already agreed. So I said, I need your email address. And he starts to give it to me. And I go, oh, let me just grab a pen and a paper. He goes, you effing Villanova guys are all the effing same. And he dropped like 47 F bombs on me. I said, do you want me to get on the line now and run a suicide coach? What are we doing? So I know he was tough. So talk about your relationship with Coach Calhoun.
I think it was good. I think it was more he believed in me. I think like right, you got to have thick skin on some of the stuff,
Yeah.
right? For me, I really didn't give a damn what he said to me, to be honest with you. Um, I really paid a lot of it no attention. I think Smitty, you're a Taurus too, right? So
Oh yeah. Oh
like
yeah.
I was and Calhoun's a Taurus. So the problem with us too is like we could clash and I really didn't give a damn, right? I was
Yeah.
stubborn. I really didn't give a damn. So it was
That's
like
Yeah.
three bulls right there, though.
I could take the coaching because right, it's the same with thing with is everything else, right? You sit up here and you can sit up here and say he's this or say that, but what you realize is that where it's coming from and it's coming from love and coming from the heart, then you
Yeah.
understand what it means, right? I'll give you a story. I mean, we played Syracuse my junior year, right? And like what I found out later was that like Calhoun, the one way for him to get me to play hard, I guess he would blame me for something that I didn't do. And I was one of them people who were like, I would go out and try to prove him that like it wasn't my mistake or it wasn't whatever. Like I guess there was one game where it was like, coming up until Mecca came, I was the all-time leading shot blocker in UConn history, right? So
Mm.
um I guess it was somebody drove to the basket and I didn't come over and block the shot or something. And it really wasn't my rotation, but like the timeout, he's like going off of me. I'm like, it wasn't like he just went off on me. Next thing you know, I think the next 3 times I blocked 3 straight blocks in a row, right? Like, and I turned to the bench and he's over there laughing because he knew what he did, right? Like he was able to play those mind games like that. But
Yeah.
my junior year, finally, it funny it caught up, and it was like we're playing Syracuse, and he just goes off on me in a timeout. And I went back off on him in the timeout. It's the only time I've ever done it. I went back off on him. We're going at it, but we end up coming back and winning the game. I think I ended up like taking over the game the next 5 minutes. We end up winning the game. And then after the game's over, he talks to the team and stuff. And, he calls me into the shower. Smitty, the shower in Hartford, right? Whereas,
Oh
in
yeah.
the back room, he calls
Yeah.
me in the shower real quick. He talks to me. He was like, you're the leader, you're the best player on the team, blah, blah, blah. Like, I can't have you talk back to me like that in the timeout. Like, if we're going to be unified, if we're going to whatever, I can't have you talk back to me like that in a timeout. And I let him say everything he said. And he goes, do you have anything to say? I go, yes. you don't talk to me like that, and I won't talk to you like that. And I just
Wow.
walked
Hmm.
out. And I think
Well,
that was the first time I think he had came back and had respect for me,
yeah,
for standing up to him, in that way. Because it's just like at the end of the day, too, is right. And then coaching is coaching, but there's also comes a respect factor in certain things, right?
yeah, yeah,
But with that said, our relationship is great. I tell people all the time is like, every time, even if I call him now, like I got to take a deep breath. I got to get my mind right because I'm like, okay, what's he going to yell at me for now? What did I do? What did I not do? He's going to yell at me, and I tell people this all the time is like, they're like, how is your relationship with the younger players that you didn't play with at UConn? I go, our relationship is great. I said we had no choice but to be great. And they're like, what do you mean? I go, if we played a game against another UConn player and you didn't go up and say hi or say what's up, my brother, UConn, whatever, and Calhoun found out, you got in trouble.
yeah,
Like it was like you didn't speak to your brother. Like whether you
yeah.
play with him or not, you became UConn family, you became brothers. And it was like if we didn't speak to each other and he found out, oh, you were going to get a call. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
And that's why we're all close today,
yeah,
still. And but that's why we are who we are, right?
yeah,
I tell you what, that's awesome. That's exactly how it is at Villanova. And you're gonna really feel it even more once you guys lose Coach Calhoun like we lost Rolly in 2017. His words will still be in your head, for the rest of your life, Whether you're coaching or you're talking to your kids or you're talking to somebody else's kids. I hear two voices. I hear my dad's voice and I hear Coach Mass.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is for 99% of the guys that I played with too, and not, I mean, because at Villanova, it's generational. It doesn't matter. We cross all the generations. I go to games, guys, like you guys do. I'm hanging out with Will Sheridan, who's 20 years younger than me, and Daniel Oshefu, who's 30 years younger than me,
Yeah.
And
wow,
just like we were
wow,
teammates, it's great. And that's the part about, what I was really impressed with Coach Calhoun when he came on the show with Sonny and I. I mean, that came through, full board, man, and between that and the pros that he put out, from UConn that you guys put out at UConn. I mean, it was unbelievable. I think it was like 36 or something. It was a real high number.
wow,
So that
wow.
said, I'm sitting here with two UConn Hall of Famers, okay? And the question comes up now and again about blue blood, all this stuff. And I know both you guys, you're not into all of that stuff, but I got to ask you, does it annoy you when it's even a question that UConn is not in the conversation with a lot of people? Does that bother you guys at all? Because that you got six chips now, okay? Number one, and number two, you have a lineage of coaches there that were tremendous, and you've gotten all these pros coming out of it. Is that what is that? Does that make you feel a certain kind of way when you hear people? Because I think it's ridiculous that you're not in the conversation.
No, no, it doesn't, Chuck. And I can say that
I
easily.
thought that.
It doesn't bother us. I mean, it doesn't bother me per se. I
Yeah.
mean, our record speaks for itself. Like you said, six
Oh,
chips. I mean, why would you even argue about that? You
right.
don't
There's
even have
nothing
to
to argue
argue
about.
about
Yeah. To me, it's
it.
open and shut. There's no argument.
It's open and shut. And the thing about it, once you watch UConn play, you understand why we win the way we win. I mean, we play hard. Our coaches have always been great. All our coaches that we had
Yeah.
has been awesome. The players play for the coaches. So I don't even argue with people when they say you're not a blue blood.
Yeah.
It's
It's not.
all
It's not
about
worth wasting your breath. Really. I mean,
no, really.
not
Yeah.
even close. It's not
No,
even.
not at all.
How
Yeah.
about you, Donyell?
I think it's the same thing as when people argue about LeBron and Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why argue? Just appreciate greatness, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day is why do people hate LeBron is because he's a threat to people's idols, right? To people's it's like appreciate his greatness, right? So it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Why people don't want to give us our credit because we're threats to Duke. We're threats
Yeah.
to North Carolina. We're threats to Kansas, right? Those are the people who've been around for years and for centuries, right? and they don't realize what we built since 1988, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, how did they build this program in a shorter time than we built, right? So they don't want to give us our 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 due diligence, but at the end of the day, like Chris said, our record speaks for itself, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are we, 6-1, and we're 6-1 in Final Fours, right?
Yeah.
And to me, you're very close to be 7-0. If Boatwright doesn't tear his ACL,
Yeah.
or his meniscus, we have a really good chance
Oh yeah.
of winning that Final Four, right? So
Yeah.
the record speaks for itself. The coaches speak for itself. The players that go to the NBA speak for itself, right?
Yeah.
Like that's one thing. If you really go back and look at it at Calhoun, you look at Hurley, you look at Kevin, right? We are one thing about our coaches, they prepare us for the NBA, right?
Yeah.
We all last long. We
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
long. And so it speaks for itself. Blue blood, yellow blood, whatever. We're
Right.
there.
Yeah.
When you show the list of the teams who won the most championships, we're always on the screen. So it don't
Yeah.
matter.
That's well said. It's exactly right. And I knew the answer when I asked the question, guys. I just wanted to get your reaction to that because to me it's ridiculous. Like I said, it's a like you said, no brainer. So yeah, just exactly what I thought. So let's delve a little bit into the NBA and then we'll let you get out of here. I know you guys are busy. So you basically played on almost every team in the league, it seems like, Donyell. So
People
where
are
was your
definitely breaking
favorite
that
place to
record.
play?
I didn't have a record, but people are definitely breaking that now.
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, I looked, like I said, we do our due diligence, and I looked and the list just kept going. You play for teams that don't even exist anymore. You were with the Supersonics, right? You played for teams that aren't even here anymore. So where was your favorite spot to play?
You know what? It's funny because people ask that question all the time, and it really is no favorite spot because they were all different, right? They're all different, all learning experiences. You know, I can sit up here and say Minnesota, even though I was only there for 3 months, 4 months,
Yeah.
but they brought me into the game. They drafted me. They believed in me, gave me a chance, right? Things just didn't work out. Golden State, I was there when it was the down years, but
Yeah.
that was the longest team I've been with. Utah taught me how to be a professional. First time making the playoffs, playing next to Karl Malone, John Stockton, second leading scorer both years on that team. That fan base really loved me. I wanted to resign with Utah. I actually liked it there. It was good for me and it was good for my family at that point in time. It was good. Chicago, just being in Chicago with the history there was amazing. Toronto, I tell people Toronto has some of the best fans. I think they got a little spoiled now that they won that one championship, but like when I was there, it was like they just appreciated you going out playing hard every day.
Mm.
They're Toronto easygoing, great fans. Cleveland, obviously, we make it to the championship. That was a great feeling. I know we lost and got swept, but just a lot of people don't get a chance to play in the championship, right? So even us getting there, um, going to Seattle, I was only in Seattle a month and a half, so I really don't have that much. But to be with Kevin Durant, his rookie year, seeing the greatness starting to form, was
Yeah.
awesome. And then last year in Philadelphia was great just from growing up in the area, being a Philadelphia fan. But then it just became sentimental to me after that because my grandmother passed away the summer after Philadelphia. So for that to be my last stop and her to be able to see me every game and be at the games and stuff, that one became a little sentimental. So they're all different for different reasons, but they were all great.
Yeah. Now, and Danielle, I want to ask you this question. This is a good one. Uh, I'm young Danielle. I'm all American in college. What would you tell a kid that's in college, getting ready to go get drafted? You were number 4, high level pick. What would you tell that kid today to prepare himself for the next level?
Um, to me is worth ethic. Make sure that it's at an all-time high. Make sure you watch, who you're hanging out with, who your
Hmm.
circle is. And to me is honestly learning the politics, right? Behind it, learn the politics behind everything. Don't take anything for granted. You know, you look at things that, Schmitty, you go back to when you and I were together in Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Things that I found out of why I got traded,
Yeah.
and the behind the scenes stuff that I thought that that a teammate was supposedly taking me under his wing,
Yeah.
but then it turned out that he was actually taking me under his wing to be selfish, to try to go back to the front office to say stuff
Yeah.
that I wasn't doing, is what kind
Yeah.
of got me pushed out. And the thing about it is that same person, it came out years later that that person wasn't who he thought he was, or who, a big story
Yeah.
about that, and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, I was forced to learn the political game right away. So I would say it's
Yeah.
like learn the political game, learn the business, learn,
Yeah.
the state in it. And then, I tell people this all the time is like, um, I had a good 15-year career, right? But
Yeah.
I was naturally talented. I go back and I wish my work ethic was a little bit better. I
Mm.
wish I took things
Mm.
more serious. I think if I would have been able to do all that stuff with the talent that I had, I
Yeah.
mean, where it would have been. But some of that comes with, again, Smitty, you were with me in Minnesota
Yeah.
right away. I
Yeah.
don't, you were only on year three at that time, right? When I
Yeah.
was there, you
Yeah.
were on year three. I'm
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I don't think I had the vets and leaders to show
Yeah.
me where I should be at, how
Yeah.
I should work.
Yeah.
I remember, as a rookie, right, after shoot around you, and you're supposed to go collect the bags, the laundry bags, and I knock on the door and just I smell weed coming out the
Yeah.
door.
Yeah.
Like I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, what is
What's this?
this? Like what's going on right now? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's why I said when I got to Utah is when I learned how to be a pro, when I
Bro.
learned how to work, because Carl and John and Jerry Sloan, I remember when Jerry Sloan passed away, my ex-wife, the first thing she said, she was like, "Are you okay?" And because
Yeah.
everybody knows that, after Calhoun and after my high school coach, Jerry Sloan was my all-time favorite coach.
Yeah.
Um, I think he got the best out of me. I got the best out of him. And he believed in me. He gave me things, that, a lot of other coaches didn't do and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think learning the business, learning the game and work ethic and stuff like that right away will help out a lot.
And that's great advice, Donyell. I tell kids all the time, it's bigger than your talent.
Yeah.
It's bigger than what you do on the court. It's more about your surroundings, your circle, the
Yeah.
people around you. Because this, like you said, all it takes is just one person to say one bad thing about you, and your career could go a different way.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
that was excellent advice. Excellent
Well, I mean,
advice.
you look back on it, is like, you know, right. It was difficult for me. Like, you look at my rookie year
Yeah,
and preseason, I'm averaging 22 points a game in preseason.
yeah,
And the day before, they're like, "You're coming off the bench," and I'm
yeah,
like, "What? What are you talking about?" Like, his
yeah,
average 22 points in
yeah,
preseason. What are you talking about?
yeah,
And then, it was, you don't, Bill Blair was our coach. Remember, it was like you
yeah,
couldn't
oh,
lose
yeah,
your starting job to injury. And the
yeah,
person in front of me, he's injured, but then
yeah,
game time, he's dunking from freaking whatever, but then practice, he can't practice. But I could
yeah,
never get the starting job because he's
yeah,
so-called injured,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then I look at it, and this is the game that I always say that I'm like, are you serious? And
Mhm.
people will probably look back and be like, yeah, Danya, like if they say this and be like, well, they got googly eyed and they did this, they did that. But I still remember this. The game we played the Chicago Bulls.
Mhm.
Me, Christian Laettner, and JR all had 20 points or more.
Yeah,
And I was like, that's right there was supposed to be our three-head
yeah,
circuit, for the
yeah.
future. And I
For the
was like,
future. Yeah,
why are you getting rid of this right now? Like,
yeah. Doesn't make sense.
we just never got off because of the
Yeah,
rules we had. And like I said, the person that was going behind my
Yeah.
back saying stuff to the
Yeah.
front office, saying that I was doing this and doing that,
Yeah.
saying that I was in the club every night, but he was the one that was taking me to the club.
It, it,
You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm like, oh, my vet's calling me. Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm going with my vet. But then
yeah.
yet,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's why I
I
said you got
understand.
to learn your
Yeah.
stuff right away.
Right away. Yeah. That's true. So true.
Yeah, and perception is everything. If you're perceived to be doing something, then you're doing it. It's hard to convince somebody otherwise,
Exactly.
especially in management. It's tough. I got drafted. I played with Jerry Sloan for a little bit. I got drafted by the Jazz. Was there. He was there at that time. Frank Layden was the head coach and the GM, and Jerry was running the practices. And Carl and Mark Eaton and Thurl Bailey would be at all the rookie practices. They came to everything, and you learned a lot from those guys because that's all they did was work, 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 and going up against those three guys, and then having Jerry have us doing wall sits and sprinting down, from a wall sit, and then all of a sudden you're down the other end. He was tough. He was tough. I mean, but I understand where you're coming from with him because in the short time that I spent with him, I could tell you, I feel your pain on that one, man, by his loss, and he
Well, it
was
was
great.
crazy. I tell people this all the time. It was like, when I got traded there from Golden State, I think I came off the bench like the first 10 games or so. And, I'm coming from, like, let's be honest, at UConn, I didn't get yelled at a lot, right? And then I'm always the superstars didn't really get yelled at. And
Mhm.
you've been there. You've been with Jerry Sloan. His rules, right? If you checked into the game with your string hanging out, he pulled you back out of the
Pulled you
game,
right
right? You
back.
couldn't
Yeah.
have your shirt out.
Wow.
You could
Wow.
like you weren't even allowed to play. Like if you weren't allowed to play with knee pads, you weren't allowed to play with like anything on. Like because he said that it would show that you were soft. Like you couldn't if your wrist was hurting, you didn't want to put tape on it, no nothing, right?
Wow.
So we're playing a game. And it's about 3 minutes into the game, and we're down, and Carl and John are playing terrible. 3 minutes into the game, Jerry Sloan calls a timeout. They sit down, and Jerry Sloan goes, "You two MFers are supposed to be our leaders, and this is how y'all playing. Sit your asses down till I tell y'all to go back in." And neither one of them said a word. They sat there, and for me, I was like, if this dude is yelling at these two, they already in the Hall of Fame, right?
Right.
Mm.
He yelling at them like that. I got to get my shit together.
Yeah. Right.
I get my shit together, and it made me respect him because when he's going to yell at 1 and 2 like that, the same way he yells at 15, then it was great. It was music to my ears, right? Because a lot of times you don't get that. Like, I mean, Smitty, Smitty, you remember when I came to UConn? What y'all nickname for me was Baby Jesus, right? Like I didn't get in trouble. Like, and it was funny. Like I remember our first road trip. I didn't know anything about per diem. I didn't know that anybody got per diem. I didn't know
Yeah.
any of that, right? So I remember getting on the bus the first time, and our manager comes around. She's giving us the envelopes. And Smitty, I don't know if you remember this, but Smitty stands up in the back of the bus, and before the bus takes off, and he just goes, "I got one thing to say." Donyell Marshall, thank you for coming to UConn because we ain't never get this much per diem before.
That's so funny. Dude, I'll tell you a funny story about meal money, Danielle. So, in '85, I played with Dwayne McClain and Gary and Ed Prez, all those guys, right? So we're on the bus going to the Big East, and we always stayed at the Essex House, right across from Central Park.
Yeah.
So on the guys do various things on the bus. Most guys were sleeping. We played backgammon, played AC Deucey, backgammon, and Dwayne was pretty good. And we had a manager named John Lindblad, and John's nickname was Rolly named him Gagoots because that's squash. So in Italian, so like he was like the brain of a squash. That's what he break his ball, right? So we're playing, and he's telling Dwayne how his grandfather taught him how to play this game. So we get the envelopes as we're walking onto the bus.
Hmm.
So it's a 3-hour ride, say to New York City from Philly in a bus. So Dwayne, he challenges Dwayne, and next thing you know, Dwayne's looking at me. He's not even looking at the dice. He goes, "I need double fours." Boom, double fours. I need double sixes. Boom. Next thing you know, we're pulling up to the Essex house, and Googie's handing him the whole envelope. He won the whole envelope off him, and he said, "Hey, we're in New York City. I can't leave you with nothing." And he peels off five ones and goes, "Here you go. Go get yourself a hamburger." And that was it. So yeah, I fully get the meal money thing. And back then, that was a big deal. And it's totally different now. I mean, I don't know what it is today, but I know when Jay was coaching, the guys would get their meal money when they got off because Mass would let us, hey, film's at 5. Do not be late or don't come back, And so we were allowed to go out and experience the city or whatever, and then we all stayed out of trouble for the most part. If you screwed up, you had to pay the piper, but that was part of the gig. So at least he let us be kids at that point. But it's crazy. And when we were in all of those games, in the tournament, our thing was 1, 2, 3 meal money, and then we'd run out on the we'd run out on the court. So, so
Yeah.
last question, and we'll let you go, Donyell. So, what are you doing now? Tell everybody what you're doing now. You working? Are you still working with kids? Are you helping the kids, with their games and stuff like that, or what are you doing these days?
Yeah, now I coach a girls AAU team and I coach two boys AAU team. The girls team is I think we'll be going to the ninth grade section next year, and then the boys team is sixth grade, and then I do personal training and then for basketball, and then I coach CrossFit as well. Just
Oh
pretty
wow,
much going to stay busy. Just
Yeah.
give me stuff to do.
Yeah.
I like coaching kids. I like helping them out. And you like you said, you're in Brentwood, you're in this area.
yeah,
The good thing about these kids is like a lot of them, yeah, I'm not saying that they don't want to go to college, but a lot of them just want to be good enough to play high school basketball.
Mm.
They know where their talents are, right? They just want to be
yeah,
good enough to play high school, good enough to, maybe go to college or whatever, like, go to a good college, but not play. So it's
Yeah.
like just to be able to give a lot of these kids confidence enough to play high school and to do it, because again, you're in this area. Most of these kids are lacrosse and soccer players anyway. That's not the greatest basketball around here, but it's good enough that they come in, they have a lot of fun. I just started doing it real, like I said, I was doing with Jerry Powell at first.
yeah.
Doing it on my own now. I do it in at the 401 Main Street in Islip.
Oh
So
my God, you know how many games I played there? There's like
yeah,
it's like
that's
a
where all the
hockey rink
CYO
there.
stuff is.
Oh my God. Chris, there's a wall. I'm sure it's still the same. There's a wall that went like around
The hockey
that's
rink wall.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
still
that's
there,
still
right?
there. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So you block somebody's shot or you get after it. You go there was times that guys would go over the wall
yeah,
when it got
Oh,
physical.
yeah.
goodness. Oh,
It's
Wow.
small,
goodness.
but they redid the floor. The floor is nice, and they actually put a scoreboard up on the wall.
Nice.
So they're
Wow.
trying to make it better because a lot of people are using it for training and stuff now. So the guy that I work with, he's definitely they're putting money into it to try to make it
That's
more
Sure.
cool.
better.
Well, it's
Yeah.
about time. It's been that way for forever. I mean, since I'm a kid, it's been like that.
Well, it
It's
used to be the high school.
yeah, back in the day. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So
Yeah.
what groups are you doing the AAU with?
The girls is ninth grade, the boys is sixth grade.
What's the name of the
Oh,
group?
the girls is called Strong Island Ice, but we
Okay.
call them Team Ice for short. And then the boys team is Rylexa Sports.
Okay.
Nice.
So the
Nice.
girls team is we're actually pretty good. We have a girl who she started at East Islip this year, in eighth grade, and she was averaging like 15 a game in high
That's
school.
great.
She's
That's great.
she's actually pretty good.
Yep. Yeah. My daughter went through all of that. She played with the Lightning and she played with
Uh,
over in Queens too for some of the with the Lady Bulldogs. You bounced all around,
yeah,
just to get some.
We played them both of them a couple times.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They're both big programs, so
Yeah.
it's good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. We're gonna have to hook up if you're on my island these days, Danielle. So, we'll have to get together and grab a bite or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
No
hey,
no Eagles
hang it.
game for me.
Yeah. Hang out for a second, guys. Let me wrap this up and then I'll give you a proper goodbye. You've been
All
listening
right.
to and watching the Big East Rewind with Chuck Everson and Sonny Sparrow. Check us out this Thursday, the 12th of March, over at Macy's Herald Square. We'll be there from 12 noon till about 6, and we'll be talking to all kinds of former Big East players, coaches. It's a lot of fun. We'll have a studio set up. Carl Banks from the New York Giants will be there. He's sponsoring us with G3 and Starter. They'll have all the starter gear there, so you can pick out your favorite college team's gear and wear that to the games. And so we look forward to seeing everybody. Anybody who wants to come down, it's no charge. Come down to Macy's between 12 and 6, and Sonny and I will say hello. And I'm sure there'll be a plethora of college former Big East basketball players there. So you'll have a good time. The Big East Rewind was produced and directed by Nick Chico Corus, Daryl Gurney, and James Happ. And check us out on the SiriusXM app, YouTube, and wherever you get your pods. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.